heard it said before that there are two equal dangers or two enemies of the gospel. Legalism on the one hand and lawlessness on the other. That legalism happens when you focus too much on the law, when you focus too much on rules and regulations and standards. Lawlessness happens when you focus too much on grace. And so, as it goes, in order to maintain spiritual equilibrium, we have to maintain a healthy balance between law and grace. I think that's a terrible way of framing it. I would say that there is one enemy of the gospel, namely legalism, but it comes in two forms. That there are those who think that they can find freedom and fullness of life by keeping the rules, doing what they're told, maintaining the standards. I call that front door legalism. But then there are others who think they can find freedom and fullness of life by breaking the rules, by becoming a law unto themselves, by doing whatever they want to do, however they want to do it. I call that backdoor legalism. The problem with framing things in the way that I described earlier, that there are two enemies, legalism and lawlessness, instead of identifying the fact that there's one enemy, namely legalism, that comes in two forms, is that it keeps moralism swirling around in our hearts and in the church, that it still becomes about my performance, either my performance in keeping the rules or my performance in breaking the rules, that both are legalistic because both are self-salvation projects. I often tell people that my life is divided into two parts. For the first 21 years of my life, I tried to find freedom and fullness of life by breaking the rules, doing whatever I wanted to do. I dropped out of high school when I was 16. I got kicked out of my home at 16 years old, hoping and praying that without parents and teachers looking over my shoulder and breathing down my neck, I could finally find freedom and rescue and salvation and meaning and all of those things that I was longing for. But then God saved me, and I so wanted to please God, and I so wanted to live for God that I found myself subtly drifting into front door legalism, believing that God's affection and God's favor was ultimately dependent on what I do and how I perform and how capable I was at keeping the rules and maintaining the standards. And I lost sight of the fact that Jesus plus nothing equals everything. So one way to determine in which direction we tend to drift, whether toward front door legalism, I can find freedom by keeping the rules, or backdoor legalism, I can find freedom by breaking the rules, is to think through how we respond when life gets hard. Do I work harder and try my best to perform better in order to gain God's blessing and help? Or do I just simply conclude that this is too hard and I give up, I quit, I throw in the towel?